Welcome back to Toffee Booze, your source for all things Everton. I'm Ollie Hayes and today I'm bringing my extra time match review for Everton 2, Liverpool 2, the final Merseyside derby at Goodison Park, ending all square. So let's get straight into it. I'm going to try my best to get through all the flashpoints that took place in the Merseyside derby. I've just about got my voice back after the game, so apologies for that. But we'll start with the starting 11 and my thoughts surrounding that. And then again, I've said it in various extra time match reviews recently that I can have no complaints with the starting 11. I was glad to see Mykolenko come back into the team for Ashley Young. I think Young had a little bit of a difficult afternoon against Bournemouth. And, if you're playing against the likes of Mo Salah, Cody Gakpo, you're going to need a little bit more pace. And whether you agree that Mykolenko offers a little bit more pace than Ashley Young, I think he does offer that little bit more athleticism. So I was happy to see Mykolenko come back in, but this now seems to be Moyes' strongest 11 now. I think he's nailed on his strongest 11, what he's most comfortable going into games with. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if we see it in weeks to come. Obviously, injury dependent. I think that's the only reason that he would make changes to that starting 11. But I also can see why Carlos Alcaraz didn't start. And I think in hindsight, talking about my starting 11 show, I think in hindsight, it probably would have been better to predict that Abdoulaye Doucouré would start the game. I think he offers that little bit more structure, and also he sets that press a little bit better in a game against Liverpool. I think structure was going to be key in it. But we'll go into the first half, and I think we started really strong. I think you have to win a derby game. You have to play to the crowd, and in that first 10, 15 minutes. So it was clear to see that the crowd was going to play a big part. We have to have a big shout out to the 1878s, don't we? What they created pre-match was special going into that game, and it really set the tone early doors for a really strong atmosphere and an Everton team that were flying at Liverpool in a derby match. And I think it was really special to see such an atmosphere being created. Obviously, with it being the last Merseyside derby at Goodison, fair play to the 1878s. They did everything right, and it really set the tone going into the game. But yeah, that first half, I think we started really strong. As I said, you have to in these derby games, but it was clear to me that their plan was to target Iliman and Jai and kick him off the park early doors. And obviously, he won the free kick that led to our first goal. It was a great routine, caught Virgil van Dijk and Ibrahima Konate asleep, and Beto latched onto the ball, one touch to finish into the bottom right hand corner. And we saw ourselves go 1-0 up. And I have to say, fair play to Charlie Adam. If that is him orchestrating the set pieces, fair play, because the work he's been doing in his short time at the club, I think it's showing that we are getting better at set pieces and, creating more chances from them. And as you said, we're bearing fruits for our labour yesterday evening because Beto latching onto the end of it, a great ball from Jared Branthwaite to pick him out. And yeah, we were 1-0 up early doors. It was very similar to last season's derby at Goodison Park, where we flew out of the blocks early doors and got on the score sheet early. I think it was really similar to that, but obviously, as we know, it didn't really last very long. Alexis McAllister equalising at the Gladys Street end with a looping header, which went into Jordan Pickford's bottom right-hand corner. And obviously, that made it 1-1 in the game. I think questions probably do have to be asked of the two centre halves. Such a short player like Alexis McAllister winning a header in the box and planting it into the bottom corner. I think questions do have to be asked. It was a good cross and it was obviously a good header, but again, could it have been dealt with? Was it avoidable? I think it probably was quite avoidable, but shortly after that, Liverpool's plan, as I mentioned earlier, Liverpool's plan of kicking Iliman and Jai off the park was obviously it worked for them because he was forced off with an injury. Looks like a potential knee injury. We obviously don't know the extent of the knee injury yet, but fingers crossed it's nothing serious because we know how good that player is for us. But it's such a shame for Iliman and Jai. I hope it's not too serious. But again, it shows that Liverpool were willing to do everything to kick him off the park. And obviously, as I said before, I think that the plan worked to target him. But that was kind of it for the first half. There was, relatively a few chances here and there, but nothing major. There wasn't really many flashpoints to the rest of that first half. It felt like a little bit of a cagey affair after that. A few chances for Beto here and there, but nothing clear cut. So we went into the halftime break level, and I was thinking, we need to play well. We need to come out firing in this second half because we know the type of team that Liverpool are. They'll press you. They'll kind of constrict you to a little bit of a little bit of pressure and they'll create many chances. So we had to come out firing and get at them. And in that second half, I thought we were on top for large spells of that second half. Creating a lot more chances than Liverpool. There wasn't really a chance that I can think of off the top of my head that they created early in that second half. And yeah, as I said before, we did need to come out firing, and we did that. We created a few chances. Obviously, Doucouré firing over into the Gladys Street end, and yeah, as we know, what went on in in the second half. There's two key moments really. The Konate handball. Obviously, this is before everything that happened later on in the game, but there was two key moments for me. The Konate handball where Beto and Konate are challenging going into the box and Konate handballs. It was very similar to the Joel Veltman one, which we saw Beto win against Brighton. It was very similar to that. So my argument will be, if that's a penalty against Joel Veltman, why was that one against Konate? Him hooking the ball back, why was that not a penalty? There seems to be no consistency with referees in this league. And then also the other flashpoint was Conor Bradley. Him not getting a second yellow was an absolute farce. And I think the referee knew his mistake because Arne Slot took off Conor Bradley pretty much immediately after him getting away with not getting a second yellow. It does say it all for me. So I think the referee will probably look back at that and be pretty disappointed with that decision because, as we know, we've seen it so many times in Merseyside derbies. You look at the Merseyside derby at Anfield under Sean Dyche, for example. Ibrahim Konate pulling back Beto on a booking, didn't get sent off, and Jurgen Klopp hooked him off after 2 minutes after that instance. So again, it says it all. We know what it's like playing Liverpool in these games. We know the referee's going to give them the rub of the green, and then obviously we know what happens later on in the second half. Salah then latched onto a rebound from a Curtis Jones shot, and Liverpool took the lead 2-1. And at that point, I'm thinking, yeah, it's game over here. We've seen this all before. It's the same old story. Everton have played well in a Merseyside derby, been on the wrong end of some decisions, and we've come away with another defeat. And again, I've seen it so many times. It seems to be the same old story. But one thing I will say is David Moyes seems to have instilled a different mentality in this squad now. He seems to have instilled a never say die attitude in the squad. And we kept going. There was a little bit of a lull after the goal. I think heads did drop a little bit. Maybe for 5, 10 minutes or so, Liverpool had the bulk of the possession and we weren't really pressing. And that shows that the heads did drop a little bit. But as I said before, he's instilled that never say die attitude. We kept going until the very last. Obviously, a bit of a contentious one with the injury time. A lot of Liverpool fans are saying that it was 2 minutes over. It wasn't. I think people have worked it out over on X, and it's about 11 seconds over the actual allotted time, which should have been. And obviously, as we know, it's a minimum of 5 minutes, not 5 minutes altogether. So 11 seconds over, a hook in from Mikalenko into the box, nodded on by Tim Iroegbunam, and James Tarkowski absolutely thunders the ball into the Gladys Street net, and the Gladys Street absolutely erupts from that. Flares going off, smoke bombs going off, fans spilling onto the pitch. It's what we live for. It's what we go to the football for. It's, in my opinion, it was fully deserved, that goal. And obviously after all the adversity that I talked about earlier in this video with the injuries, the refereeing decisions, it was fully deserved in my opinion. And Decore's antics as well after the final whistle, obviously the long VAR check which sent us into probably the 100th minute. Them talking about the potential Beto push on Konate, which again, if that one gets disallowed for a Beto push on Konate, we might as well pack up all our stuff and start watching football because there was nothing in that for me. And then obviously Tarkowski thundering it in. There was potential offsides. There was everything. There was a VAR check, but in my opinion, for us to come away with a point, it was fully deserved after all the adversity. And Decore's antics after the final whistle, in my opinion, I think they were completely justified. I think if you're watching it in the context of the entire game, Liverpool were playing dirty, they were playing nasty, they were kicking us off the park. I think obviously you have to expect it in a derby game. I don't deny that. Everton were giving their fair share of giving it out in their fair share. So again, in the context of the game, I think it was completely justified for Abdoulaye Doucouré to go over to the Liverpool fans and wind them up. But of course, the referee has to make it all about him at the end of the game, sending off Arne Slot, sending off Doucouré, sending off Curtis Jones. I think Liverpool's assistant also got sent off. So again, the referee has to make it all about himself. We've seen it so many times in not just Everton games this season, but referees, making it all about themselves. And again, another thing that I want to point out, it seems to me that the celebration police were out in full force yesterday. No one can take this moment from us, can you? I made a tweet after the game about the celebration police, and obviously every Evertonian will know what that meant yesterday. The potential of seeing Liverpool win the last Merseyside derby at Goodison and celebrating in our face. I think a lot of Everton fans were expecting the worst with 2 minutes to go, and to get that goal and to equalise. I think no one can take that moment away for us. We're allowed to celebrate it however we want. I don't think the celebrations were over the top at all. I was in that ground, I experienced it, and the rush of adrenaline that you got when that goal hit the back of the net, it was absolutely fantastic. And no one can take that moment away for us for the rest of our lives. But that is it, really. I'll go on to my standout performers really for me. For me, I think Jarrad Branthwaite is one name definitely to mention. I think he had a fantastic game. He really was sort of the unsung hero of that defense. Obviously, James Tarkowski taking the bulk of the plaudits for his fantastic goal, and rightly so. But Jarrad Branthwaite seemed to me like a little bit of an unsung hero yesterday because I thought he was absolutely fantastic in defence, and he had the stats obviously to back it up. But also Idrissa Gana Gueye, I think he had a good game. I think he was an experienced head. He got booked very early on in the game, but kept his head, kept his composure, and bossed that midfield from start to finish, in my opinion. And he didn't really give this super Liverpool midfield too much to shout about. So again, massive shout out, massive plaudits to him, and also Beto. I think it in my starting 11 show, I did touch on the fact that we wanted to see the Beto of Leicester turn up and not the Beto of the Bournemouth FA Cup game to turn up. And I think it was defo the Beto of Leicester rather than the Bournemouth Cup game. And he had a fantastic game, obviously getting on the score sheet. And I think that takes his tally up to 4 for the season now. That might be wrong, but I think it takes his tally up to 4. So again, he's putting a little bit of a run together now. So I say it a lot, but fingers crossed he can keep that going. But they were my standout performers for me. Branthwaite, Idrissa Gana Gueye, and Beto, all fantastic for me. But I could sit here all day and wax lyrical about the team because they dug deep last night and managed to come away with a fantastically worked point. But yeah, on to Saturday now. We've got a big game against Crystal Palace. The games come thick and fast. So again, it'll be interesting to see how we get on without Iliman and Jai. Obviously the potential injury to him. But yeah, a big game. Potentially can move level on points with Crystal Palace on Saturday. So fingers crossed we can get a result at Selhurst Park and really kick on and start looking up the table rather than looking over our shoulders. But that is all for my match review of Everton 2, Liverpool 2. Obviously, the final Merseyside derby at Goodison Park, ending all square. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm sure some Liverpool fans will have some choice words for my views about the referee and also the celebration police, what they thought about our celebrations. But bring it on. Let's hear the comments. But also, Blues, let me know your thoughts in the comments about obviously the last Merseyside derby at Goodison Park. The 2-2 draw, were you happy with the performances and also the performers that I mentioned? But also let me know any standout performers that you thought. But that is all from me today. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll speak to you soon.